The impacts of climate change that we're going to experience are going to worsen, and it's going to change the way that we think about climate risk, whether that's within the financial services or whether that's across different types of sectors. One of the key things that's going to become necessary in addition to mitigation is adaptation. The banking and financial services sector has a very unique role to play. I think they're in a very special position to be connected to all sectors through the financing that they provide, through the insurance that they provide. And one of the key advantages that they have is access to these different types of sectors. One of the key things that's going to be necessary for climate adaptation is incorporating the adaptation strategies, not just within business strategies, but also financial strategies within each of these businesses. And the financial services sector is in a good place to ensure that they're innovating with new products and services, but also innovating with the new ways of working with their clients to ensure that they're enabling their clients to make sustainable choices, to make climate adaptation choices, but also to ensure that the financing, the different types of services required, the different types of advice required is set in place now, so that when different sectors across different industries and geographies start to make those adaptation strategies and start to implement adaptation strategies, they are not hindered by the lack of financing.
What time frame does climate adaptation demand us to look at, and what are some of the risks of not looking at it?
That is the great challenge. Now, 2050 is too late. Actually, we as a bank have committed to far closer goals, a 1 to 0 project across everything that we do. I always think of the Native American model of think about the 7th generation from now. How is what we're doing today going to impact on them? So I think people have to think really short term about things that need to change, but they're thinking about impacts over a 20 to 30 year period.
It's not just about mitigating, but actually is how do we then think about the businesses, the way that we run our businesses to adapt to these new circumstances. Because by doing so, then we will be future-proofing our businesses for the future. They will become far more resilient. Innovation is absolutely critical within sustainability for many angles. The first one is because, we're trying to implement something that it's just not done before. And although sustainability is nothing new, obviously we've dealt with this in the past, the way and the scale of the challenges that we have today are so much bigger that we really need to think outside of the box and try to come up with different ways to attain results.
There's a lot that we can do as a finance industry to address adaptation. One of the first areas of urgency is often around water and around soil health, around forest preservation. So the translation of actually biodiversity issues and physical climate risk issues into solutions on adaptation is actually something that's really energizing and hopeful. Science is absolutely fundamental to what the finance industry is going to have to do to tackle climate change, both from a mitigation and adaptation perspective. Scientists have a lot of the solutions, but I think the biggest part of moving forward on what we can do as an industry and as global economy and as politicians, citizens, financiers, is to really translate that science into something that's actionable.
Education, I think that's the fundamental thing that we have to work towards and that we have to get right, and it's the stumbling block that there's so many blockers at the moment, and it's down to people just not having the knowledge that they need.
Climate adaptation and climate change affects primarily vulnerable people, so that's why diversity, equality and inclusion, understanding the different patterns of society and communities should be considered when taking those decisions. Leaving no one behind should be part of the solution from the financial sector.
Collaboration is critical, particularly when it comes to communities and working with the stakeholders on the ground that are going to be impacted by many of the kind of climate adaptation challenges.
The collaborative effort in reaching a common goal, and it creates a lot of win-win scenarios where a challenge in one particular sector being solved together also solves a challenge for the financial services sector. Because at the end of the day, all the sectors that they finance are linked with their Scope 3. And when we think about reducing those Scope 3 emissions, but also ensuring that their portfolio within their Scope 3 emissions is building resilience, that will in turn build resilience within the financial services sector as well.
The financial sector has a critical role to play in our society's ability to adapt to climate. And never before have we had such a strong need for us all to collaborate to meet that challenge. We notice already today we face floods, we face storms, we face wildfires. All of these are risks to our whole way of life and all of our businesses as well. The financial sector is the heart of all of these organisations. Everything is funded through finance. Everything flows through finance. Finance is a river that flows through the solutions that we need. If it is not orientated in the right way, if it is not focused on the right solutions, we will not be able to see the changes that we need that will enable true transformation to adapt to a world, but also to mitigate the challenges as well.